Welcome to the latest Terrace Bay Council meeting. This week, Council heard a major proposal from EDF Renewables to transition their local project from a small solar site to a large 200 megawatt battery storage system. This shift is in response to new provincial rules. The project promises at least 200 construction jobs and requires council approval to move forward with their provincial bid. In other business, Council addressed 5 key requests for the 2026 AMO delegations, focusing on infrastructure and economic development. They also approved the donation of 6 remaining food cycler units to local schools to help reduce food waste. Now here's the agenda.
November 17th, call this meeting of the Corporation of Township of Terrace Bay to order. Okay, next order of business is EDF Renewables presentation.
All right. First, just want to say thank you for letting me come and speak. My name is William Colucci. I'm a project developer with EDF. And some of you may recall, I came back in February of last year talking about a solar project. We are transitioning this project. The hope is to transition it to a battery storage project. I'll explain some details. But really the intent of my presentation today is really just to share some information on how the project has sort of modified and changed over the last year and a half. And sort of introduce the new technology of what battery storage is all about, why the province is looking at it, and what a project like this could mean for Terrace Bay. I'll move through the first few slides fairly quickly, jump out at any point if you have a question, but I'll try and focus more on sort of the province needs and the project itself. So just quickly on EDF, a quick refresher. We're a developer, owner, and operator. We're one of the largest developers in North America for renewable energy projects. And I think what really separates us from a lot of our competitors is that owner-operator side of our business. We don't just develop sites and sell them off. We operate our sites long-term. In fact, the operations side of our business is one of our strongest skills. We operate and maintain over 30 competitor projects in Ontario. And we're one of the largest third-party operations and maintenance firms in North America. So we really know what it takes to not just build a project, but have one successfully run for their entire lifespan. In North America, we currently have over 16 gigawatts of projects already developed, with many more sort of coming through the pipeline. The EDF renewable arm operates in 22 countries around the world. So we've developed projects in any known terrain, environment, climate. We've kind of seen it all. We can leverage the expertise of our teams from multiple different parts of the continent and around the world. In Canada specifically, we've been operating here for almost 15 years now, just shy of 3,000 megawatts of projects put into service, and a few more that we've received contracts on recently that should be hitting operation in the next couple of years. So continuing to really grow our footprint here in Canada specifically. Here's just a quick map on where some of these projects are. A lot of wind experience developing projects in Quebec. Ontario is really exciting that the market here is coming back into the mix. So we're adding lots of new projects in Ontario. The green boxes here highlight sites that we've won contracts for in the last couple of years. So we found success in the latest procurement out of BC, and we found success in the latest procurements in Quebec. So we're trying to leverage that success and bring it to Ontario. This slide I just want to highlight, something that we are committed to is having Indigenous partners on our projects. We currently have 1,700 megawatts of projects with First Nation partners already involved. And that's something that we've been looking to bring to our project here. We've kicked off some early discussions with the local First Nations on potential partnerships. So that is something that we would look to incorporate to a project in Terrace Bay as well. Energy storage specifically, we currently have actually 23 storage projects now, either in development or fully operational. And I'll mention that a lot of these sites are co-located with solar and battery storage. So there might be an opportunity down the road to have a similar situation here. But for the time being, when I display the project, you'll see it's focused on the storage side. So here's probably some new information, just a little bit about, the basics of battery storage. And, I'm happy to sort of answer any questions on this. And of course, provide more information as we sort of go down this road together. But essentially, the intent of battery storage is maybe fairly intuitive. The idea is to have batteries in place that are connected to the Ontario grid that store energy for when it's needed most. There's a lot of moments in the day where the province is producing a lot of electricity, but it's not necessarily being used at that time. What we've been doing historically is selling a lot of that off to neighboring jurisdictions, New York, Michigan, Quebec, Manitoba, often at a loss because you need to dispense it. What we do instead is store these batteries when there's peak moments of the day, everyone's home, air conditioners are on, heating's on, whatever the case may be. It draws from these batteries that were charged at an earlier point in the day at a lower cost. So really the intent is to cut down those spikes in electricity and balance out those dips where we're providing a lot but not necessarily using it. The general shape of this equipment, you're looking at a series of containers roughly the size of a shipping container in the back of a truck or a train, and that would essentially be stacked side by side on sort of a concrete pad. There's not really a lot of moving pieces to them. The internal view of these turbines, or sorry, these containers are just rows of these battery packs that basically look like a computer server. And they just sit there and are dispatched as needed, all controlled by the product itself. The technology that we're proposing for this project is lithium-ion batteries. It's by far the most common used technology for energy storage. Same types of batteries that are in our computers and cell phones and most of our electronics. So that's the technology that we would be proposing for this site, the lithium-ion batteries. And depending on which tech selection we make, they all have their own nuances and slight differences, different safety features. We have a dedicated procurement team whose sole focus is to procure the best technology, the safest technology, making sure that it's coming from ethically sourced places, manufacturing in ethical ways. Our team focuses solely on that. So we'd work with them and identify what technology works best for us, and what tech works best for this specific area. So here's just some more sort of photos on what it looks like. Different examples of the technology in the photo on the right there, in terms of what they could potentially look like. But the internal systems are more or less the same as these servers that sit inside with air conditioners on top to keep them cool in those hot summer months. The batteries themselves, every 5 years or so, there might be an opportunity to swap out a few of the specific packs. They might degrade slightly over time, and our contracts with the province are very specific megawatt hour. So, if a cell is degrading too fast, you might swap it out every 5 years or so, but it wouldn't be an overhaul of the entire site. It'd be on a case-by-case basis. And, we monitor our sites 24/7, 365. We can see how the project is performing. And what's unique about battery storage as well is it's modular. So each container can operate on its own. If we needed to shut down a container for whatever reason, whether it wasn't performing properly, or maintenance, whatever the case may be, we can shut that off without having to disturb the whole project. And this goes for, if there's a potential incident at a site, a container wasn't performing properly and our team noticed a sensor going off, they can shut that down without having to shut down the whole project. I think that's sort of, the high level sort of information on sort of what it does. I think some of the few things that I often hear about and questions on the technologies, certainly noise, they make noise, they don't really produce a whole heck of a lot. The noise really comes from the HVAC systems themselves. So I think everyone knows what their air conditioner sounds like. It's like having one of those on the containers. They don't run 24 hours a day, they just run when they're needed. But I think the location of the site here that we're proposing, it's still on the existing runway there. It's far away from any homes. No one would even know this project existed. They're not particularly tall. It's not like a big turbine. doesn't really generate a lot of noise, so the intent is no one even knows that. So I'll quickly run through how we ended up here from where we started, back in February of 2024. So that's when I first came and presented to you all, explaining the opportunity for a solar project. At the time, this was pre-RFP rules, the ISO, who regulates electricity in the province, had unveiled this plan of procuring all this energy. They weren't really sure what the rules were yet, so we were looking for potential sites. That's where we were at the time when I presented. Later that year, so December, the province started putting out their documents, the draft documents. And after reviewing those forms, you can see that the procurements that they were proposing were catered towards projects in the northern part of the province, emphasizing wind development at the time. And because of the way that the procurement was being structured, it became clear to us that a small solar site that we're proposing wouldn't be competitive. It wouldn't win a contract, essentially. And I'll go in on the next couple of slides as to what really drove that. But the projects included rated criteria points that provided certain bonuses to your bid to help lower your price. Transmission constraints were an issue, and just the cost competitiveness between solar and wind. And I'll sort of go into that in more details. At that time, since we knew, if we wanted this project to be successful, we'd have to expand it. We started reaching out with contacts at the mill to see if, the land surrounding would be available for an expanded project. We had back and forth communication for a while, but essentially, the mill didn't really know what they wanted to do with their lands, with the project, whether they wanted to be a part of it or not. And so, we sort of made a decision that, until we have some sort of concrete step that we can increase the size of this project, it likely won't work for solar on its own. Let's explore batteries. And so March 31st of this year, just, in casual, messaging with city staff, we proposed the idea of maybe coming back to council to talk about switching from solar to storage. The work being done on the solar side wasn't lost. A lot of the permitting work that was done, the site surveying, those kind of things still apply. So, it still allowed us to, keep this project moving without knowing for sure which way we were going to go. And the plan was to, once, the energy side of the bids were done, to really dive into the battery storage side. So we submitted projects for energy, wind and solar back in October, and now the province is shifting its view towards battery storage. And again, that kind of references what I was mentioning before, where the intent of batteries is to store that generation of wind. Sometimes the turbines are spinning not needed, so now that's the sequence. So this breaks down a little bit again why we were driven out of solar. So as you can see, sort of the map on the top here, there's that ring of blue that says Northwest 600 megawatts. So that's the region that we're in, and this area generally has capacity to hold 600 megawatts of electricity. This is the guidance that comes right from the province itself. In this area, there were a lot of projects proposed and submitted to the province for wind and solar projects well above 600 megawatts. A lot of it being wind, the vast majority of it being wind. And thinking if wind wins this 600 megawatts and fills it, and there's no room for a solar project here, then there's no transmission. Even if you had a good price, it was a little bit higher than the wind site, but still decent. There's not enough capacity to hold, 2 wind sites in the solar project. So that was one big challenge. And again, I mentioned, there were rated criteria points to develop sites in the north. So if you're in the northeast or northwest zones, you had, these points associated to your bid, which brought down your overall price. So that really drove a lot of developers to put sites up here. So there was a lot being proposed. So the odds of squeezing in a small project would have been very challenging. That combined with the cost competitiveness of wind versus solar. Wind is just a bit more expensive right now, solar is more expensive than wind to build and operate. So when you're competing for such a small amount of megawatts between a 200 megawatt wind site, those wind sites are going to beat out the small solar any day. The only way for solar to be competitive is to increase the size, have better economies of scale, and find success. And we weren't going to find that with the small site that we had here for solar. So that really drove the decision to say, you know what, solar might not pencil. Let's see if we can move forward with the battery project instead. The ISO RFPs, so this might be somewhat repetitive, but the province is pushing forward aggressively with these procurements. They just finished their first round of the energy, stream. They're doing their second round of capacity streams. They run a couple of procurements already, and they're looking to procure more battery storage projects. We don't know for sure just yet, but we're assuming that for all these subsequent bids, there's going to be increased incentive to build in the north. So a site up here would be very beneficial. I think the rest of this I sort of mentioned. The last thing I'd sort of maybe highlight here is that last bullet. And this is perhaps not new. We had to do the same thing for the solar project. Any developer that wants to submit a project would have to also submit a municipal support resolution. It's essentially town councils, city councils, providing a letter for our bid to be submitted that states that they accept so-and-so to develop a project and submit it into the bid itself. I want to stress that the municipal support resolution is not a legally binding document. It doesn't provide any guarantees or approvals that we can move forward with the project. It doesn't supersede any permits that we need to get. It simply states that you allow EDF, or you can write it in a way that's more general. You allow any developers to submit battery storage projects into this RFP. So it's very specific to technology. It can be very specific to developer and specific to the individual RFP itself. So the solar, municipal support resolution being provided, for example, would not help us in this situation. This is something that we would need before we bid. The next procurement that we'd be looking to submit this project into is going to be open next year. The province is looking, they haven't set a specific date yet, but they're saying Q2, Q3 of 2026. So sometime between now and then, if we wanted to move forward, we'd have to get that resolution signed. So now I'll talk about the project itself. What we're proposing is a 200 megawatt battery storage project. It's an 8-hour system, which means that for 8 hours, it could dispatch 200 megawatts worth of electricity. The reason we picked 200 megawatts is the circuits that run through just north of here. They're 230 kilovolt circuits. The guidance from the province is the maximum that you're allowed to inject onto a 230 line is 200 megawatts. So we're looking to maximize how much we can put onto a single circuit. The circuits here, there's 2 of them, both have full capacity. So even if projects that are also looking to connect onto this line, the wind and solar work, sorry about that, they want to connect, there's still a strong likelihood that there'll be available capacity for this project. Some of the environmental work that we've done, we completed desktop work on the site. We had staff walk the site in early October and perform some site investigating work. We've completed critical issues analysis, stage 1 archaeological assessments, and cultural surveys and things are underway. This is just very, very, very tip of the iceberg. The permitting process for projects like this is incredibly extensive. It takes 2 years to permit a project like this in Ontario. So obviously a lot more work to do, but the initial surveys have been quite positive. And we think that this could be a very competitive site for batteries because of the flat nature, the cleared space that already exists, and the fact that there are no major environmental red flags. On the stakeholder site, so as I mentioned, we've been engaging with First Nation partners. We've been meeting with Pace Platts First Nation to establish a basis for potential partnership for this project. Part of the rated criteria points for the province is to have a First Nation partner, and if you have the First Nation that you're partnering with is the territorial holder of those lands, then you maximize your points, and Pace Platts would be that First Nation for this area. On the community side of things, we've engaged with Superior Classics Car Club. We know that they've been running the drag fest there for the last several years. We were a sponsor of that event this year, and we've already committed to sponsoring next year and every year until the project would hit construction. Our relationship with the club has been very strong. A colleague of mine who wasn't able to join today, Toby Shepard, he's our manager of community engagement. He's been building that relationship and making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that their event continues to run, and when if the time comes that, we may couldn't host on the site again, perhaps helping to find an alternative site or transitioning with the club in some way. And just kind of engagement, we'd like to continue to develop in the community. I recall when I was presenting the solar side, Luke Bedard at the time, I'm not sure if he's still in the township, mentioned, there was an RC track event that is hosted on the site. And he mentioned, the property sometimes gets used for the orange helipad. Those kind of events, those kind of things could still stay in place because of the small footprint needed for battery storage. I don't know enough about drag racing to know if you can fit it on that site still with what's left. So I won't really speak to that, but certainly the smaller kind of things are very easy for us to continue to include on the property. What we've done as well, that area in the blue up there is Crown land. It's a portion of the Crown land. We submitted what's called a Crown land site report to the Ministry of Natural Resources to basically say we want to, have access to this portion of the property for the connection point. So we submitted that document on November 7th. And so we should know in the coming weeks if that gets approved, but based on our experience, there should be no reason why that doesn't move forward. So that'll be a big part in terms of securing the land needed for the project, is making sure that we have access to the line itself. And that's what we'll be looking to connect. The layout that's shown here is an absolute maximum view. This is showing 400 megawatts. So this shows a potential of, since there's two circuits, they can both hold 200 megawatts. At the absolute maximum, we would build the site this big and do a dual connection. But I think most likely what's most successful would just be to half this size and have a 200 megawatt site. So all in all, it's a very small footprint to the overall property itself. That's sort of the high level view on the project, its specifics. Now we'll sort of talk about some of the community work that we would be doing. And first is compensation. Community engagement and public compensation is, a top priority. And this really comes from, again, the fact that we're not just a developer, but owner operator. We plan to be in the community for the 20 years of the contract and perhaps potentially longer. So we want to make sure that, we're doing engagement early and throughout, the whole process. So that includes coming back to present to council as we continue on this road, provide more information, answer specific questions, sharing information in sort of, this setting, but also public engagement sessions, hosting open houses, at least one every year, if not multiple a year, just to share info on, what we're proposing, to how everything is going, and just continue to share information that way. So we'd be looking to really drive a lot of that work as well. We'd be creating project websites for people to access information. We'd share our permitting documents there so that people can see how it's going, just making sure that we have a transparent view on how the project is progressing. So that's something we would be doing continually throughout, not just now, but certainly, through permitting, construction, through operation. Community support as well. So, we develop this project and we would develop different opportunities to have direct benefit to the community and to community members at large. Typically what we see, these community funds go to are, educational scholarships, recreational activities, local foundations that need support. It really, it could be a lot of different things. And just one example is the Superior Classic Car Club event that we do sponsor and will continue to sponsor. So always open to other ideas. As people know, groups or clubs that need support, we love to help, do what we can in the community when we have projects. Around the battery storage site specifically, there will certainly be an increased number of job opportunities for the construction of this project. I think you're looking at least 200 jobs during construction through, a wide variety of different roles, surveying work, engineering work, maintenance work. It's a long list. It just shows a few of the, the roles that we would need. And of course, with that comes the direct spending benefits on goods and services in the area. We try and source laborers, equipment, materials locally as possible. Obviously, once we can't find it in the immediate area, we continue to expand and fill what we need. But the first view is always local, having local quarries and local talent. In terms of long-term jobs, you're probably looking at 2 to 4. Again, there's just not really a lot that goes on these projects, but we would have site technicians, 2 site technicians and maybe 2 site managers that we'd hire, again, as locally as possible. And then there'd be ongoing maintenance jobs, snow plowing and vegetation management and things like that. That again, would be more on a seasonal or, semi-permanent basis. In terms of municipal benefits, there's 3 ways that the municipality would get direct payment benefit. First being the lease. We would lease the property from the township, so we wouldn't own it. You would remain the owner of the property. We would pay you, annual lease payments for that. And that would include, the time from when you start, once we sign the agreement, operating payments, construction payments where things sort of ramp up. And then you get the full lease payments when we get operation. So there's a bit of a scale. From that, we're negotiating and developing the lease with town staff right now. So, we'll make sure to find an agreement that works best for both parties. On the host municipality agreement, so this is something that we create in all the municipalities that we develop in. It's an amount that's based usually on a per megawatt amount. So what we're proposing right now is $2,000 per megawatt per year. So for a 200 megawatt site, you're looking at $400,000 a year. The initial contract with the province is for 20 years. So it'd be about $8 million that would be given through this host municipal agreement directly to the municipality to be used however you want. Road maintenance, building seniors' homes, whatever. As well, we get the feedback a lot in communities that, it's all fine and well, the partnerships we have with the municipality, but me, the resident, we can see where that goes necessarily. So what we do is set up an annual fund that's really driven by the local community. And then I'll show an example on the next slide, but I'll just jump to it right now. So this is an example that we did at our Romney Wind site down in Chatham. We set aside $25,000 every year to be spent on locally driven initiatives. From there, we created a community group. It included 1 counselor for the area and then interested citizens that helped really drive where this $25,000 would go. This is an example of what they put that money towards. So you can see food banks, it's community festivals, recreational trails, building pickleball courts, donations to local sports teams, the public schools. Really, we don't decide where it goes as long as it's, obviously not inappropriate. The community determines how they want that money to go. And it's directly for the members of town as opposed to the host municipal agreement, which goes to council. So again, this is something that we would be including in a project here. So a lot of information at you very quickly there. Ultimately, what we would need to do over the next several months to make this project a reality is continue to work with town staff on executing the lease agreement for that property. Again, if you wanted to submit this project into a bid, we would need a municipal support resolution, so that would have to be executed. And what we want to be doing on our side is just continue to advance that environmental and permitting work. That way, once we get a contract, we're not starting from ground zero. We've done a lot of that work. We can sort of move through that process quicker, get the project online faster, and that way, we're all benefiting. So that's the end of my presentation, and now I'd just love to chat about
Any questions from anyone?
Okay, couple. So 200, forget the term, right? So because the line is 230?
Yeah.
So if they ever expanded that line, it's potential to expand the site with more storage?
So there's 3 lines essentially that we have in Ontario, 115, 230, and 500. As of right now, we're not allowed to connect to a 500 kV line. That's Honey guidelines. They determine, those rules. That's not allowed to us. So really the max will probably stay around 200. The only reason we go bigger is connecting to both lines.
Yeah.
Doing 400.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? No, Chris? No. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course. John and Katie have my contact info, so whenever questions come up, channel it best you see fit, but always available to come back, present, run through, share information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bring that back again now.
Yes, we'll just sort of down. Maybe just do it like that again, but I'll keep it here. I don't, you don't need it?
No.
You ready, Joe?
Safe travels. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is fall town hall.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if council expressed interest in having a fall town hall meeting sometime on their return from vacation, sometime in the autumn here. I guess really administration is looking for some more direction or more information on what council would really want to see out of that meeting. Were you looking to have a presentation? Were you looking to just have an open Q&A? Keeping in mind, we did do coffee with council. We had some good dialogue with some local residents at coffee with council. But I think, town hall probably warrants something a little more formal. So I would open up for that and just administration looking for some more information.
I think last time we had some of the Q&A. That seemed to work well. Yeah.
In terms of just point of chair, just in terms of timing, there's obviously the budget schedules on the upcoming on this agenda. Actually, we're going to talk about it in a minute. I would think sometime towards the last week of November, first couple of weeks of December, we could probably facilitate this and have some of that information into the public, and then they can provide feedback at that time, and as well go on and fill out the budget survey act themselves. But we can work. We'll come back on the first with a more definitive plan, or before then, if we deem it necessary. That works for you.
Yeah. Any other comments on that?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, next item, John, is delegations for Roma.
Thank you, Your Worship. So 2026 delegation requests, they're due tomorrow. I've submitted 4 of 5 of the original ones from AMO. We had talked at the last meeting about just resubmitting the ones. So I've submitted the MNRF. I know Councillor St. Louis had expressed interest in going directly to that minister. The way the submissions go is it just goes to the ministry and they decide who deals with what. I did request, though, on the MNR, through that request, with respect to bears as an issue. I believe, unofficially, until we present a report, we're up to 47 trap and transfers this year. I think that's the most we've ever done. So bears are an issue. We were still trapping up to last weekend when we wind down operations at the beginning of October. So that's a lot of bears. Anyway, we have the stats. We're pulling all that together. We'll come forward to a report hopefully on the first, if not to a future meeting for sure. That was one of the ones I split that delegation. The other one obviously being the Fuller River Mill, the back of the forestry industry in general. So we'll see where that goes. The number one request was for infrastructure because we didn't get the meeting at AMO. So I've already submitted that one as well. And also to the Minister of Economic Northern Economic Development, which is Mr. Fury. I've submitted that one, and finally to Minister Fideli with respect to the job creation, job retention related back to, and obviously the mill closure, and sit back in the forestry industry, back in the regional economies. What's the government all needs to be working together here to get something going for our community in respect of what we're dealing with. So the last one would be the Minister of Education from the 5. I was discussing with Councillor DeBay today, if you want to just speak for a second.
Yeah, sure. At AMO, we spoke with the Ministry of Education, and it was mostly surrounding support for ECEs and just streamlining their training and whatnot. So they sort of direct me to this program online because I said, when I was speaking with Confederation College, they said, Confederation College said, well, we're not really doing distance, and they sort of gave me like some mixed messages basically, and the ministry forwarded me to a website, and I've gone through it a little bit, but honestly, I really would rather speak with Patty, the Minister of Jobs. I feel like this is more in her wheelhouse than a provincial initiative. So we could speak to Patty about supporting sort of ECEs getting trained virtually within our community and not have to travel to Thunder Bay, looking at either does something like that exist, and if not, can we move forward with something like that? Because right now I got education grants, travel grants, training allowances, reimbursements, and stuff like that, which is what the Ministry of Education sent back to me. So in my opinion, I don't believe going back to the ministry with this exact same sort of wish list is going to bear anything new.
just to add on Councilor today's points, we're working locally with our partners and we're at the DSAB level right now. So really, we don't really have an update to go to, that was the other thought I had, is go to the minister, we'll update on our progress. But we don't have one right now. We may have one by the time Roma rolls around, which is kind of always the dilemma. Do you apply, do you not apply?
Yeah.
So I would leave it up to council. If the direction is to continue to apply, we can. The worst they could say is no. On the other hand, we don't have to apply. And the second part would be, are there any other ministries? That was the whole point of bringing this back to this meeting, because it's due tomorrow. Are there any other ministries council would like to speak to?
Could you apply to the Ministry of Education and then if you don't get the updates, just cancel it, John?
You could, yeah, you could.
It'd be worth their while to talk to the Ministry of Energy based on tonight's presentation. I don't know if that would.
Their current process is with the IESO.
I was just gonna say that,
Don't always say no, but
Yeah,
IESO would probably
it's
be.
pretty well laid out.
yeah.
If we had commentary on how that process is being run, I would certainly not. That's my opinion.
I'm just thinking out loud, so.
I think the IESO will probably be there anyways too.
There's a chance.
There are times where they do take delegations along with Hydro One and Open Team, so that as well too. I haven't seen it released yet, but.
That might be a wiser one if you can get it then, when you could go talk to them about it, but.
Because I'm a subscriber at a delegation of Hydro in Ottawa.
Might be real early to do that with this project anyway, we don't even know where it is yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so I'll take that as direction to go ahead with the one to education.
Yeah.
Watch for ISO, and if there is one, we could just go ahead and apply for it. Same thing with we'll just stick with those two for now.
Yeah.
And there are no other ministries currently that anybody else has any ideas about. You have till tomorrow too, if you have a brainstorm tonight while you're lying in bed, please forward it and you can CC the rest of the council, we can apply. Again, there's no guarantee we're gonna get the delegations, but it's always nice when we do, and usually bring a pretty good dog and pony show to the minister, so.
That's started up there. The next item is myself, Councillor Webb and Mayor Mullins were in Thunder Bay last Wednesday and Thursday. We attended the Zone 1 OACP meeting. That's the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police and Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. The theme for this year's conference was communication. This first part here is going to be about our zone meeting. Lisa Darling, she was a former OPP superintendent, is the executive director of the OAPSB. She brings a lot of knowledge and experience to the organization. The organization is in the midst of making a bunch of changes, put it that way, and all to the good. The OAPSB will have a new name and logo in 2026, and it's going to be Least Governance Ontario, I believe. And some good news we're getting a new detachment commander to start here in Nippigan, actually, on the 22nd of December. Sergeant Jason Golds is from the Renfrew area. Myself, Bill, and Mayor Mullins met him online there about 2 months ago. And we met him in person up at the conference. We talked with him, we told him what our priorities were, and one of them, the big one, was communication. For those of you that don't know, our board covers from the Steel River to the Gravel River. And there's gonna be a change in the way dues are collected in 2026. Each board will be charged $150. The OAPSB member will be 21% per household, which is approximately $500 total. And we have 15 boards in Zone 1, and the Nippigan detachment has 2 boards. And our Zone 1 goes from Manitoba right to the Manitoba border, north to Sioux Lookout and Greenstone. There are 77 OPP detachment boards in Ontario. Now to the conference, the speakers, first up was Chief Fleury from Thunder Bay. Talked about long-term plans to make this community safer. And one of the things he brought up is community resource officers and I think 4 DSAP properties in town, because they're having a lot of issues with, I guess, some apartments being taken over by people selling drugs and stuff like that. And he also talked, and everyone knows, you listen to the news, talk about systemic racism in Thunder Bay. The next speaker was Brian McKillop. He's the OPP Northwest District Superintendent. Many years ago, he used to be the detachment commander in Marathon. And he just gave us some statistics, which I found a little hard to believe, and I think some of you might too, but 20% of collisions involved in our area are involved a commercial motor vehicle. Last year, collisions decreased by 10%. The bad news is impaired driving charges went up by 10%. Violent crime, we talked about, 28% of the calls for violent crime are partner violence. And alcohol is the most impacted domestic violence, or causes the most impact to domestic violence. You said crime is down in the Northwest region. And what worries the OPP the most is impaired driving, partner violence, bail violations, street gangs, and organized crimes. And he did mention that the OPP do have a working relationship with, in Kenora and Red Lake, a working relationship with, province of Manitoba. And one of their focuses, is on better border policing. Next up was Cheryl Gervais. She's from Treaty 3, which is the Kenora area, and that encompasses 22 First Nations. They are implementing recommendations from a consultant, expanding their community safety and well-being plan. They're expanding recruitment, and she also said she noted the inequalities with First Nation policing. Next up was Dave Scott, Blackstool Police Service, and that he polices 3 communities, and that's all near Sioux Lookout, Whitefish Bay, Frenchman's Head, and Keechik Bay. He's a social navigator for that force. He talked on what they are doing to improve community relationships, and he gave an overview of their service. Next up was Derek Johnson. He's with Anishinaabeg Police Service. It was formed in 1992. They serve 16 First Nations. They have a $30 million budget with 94 officers, and the resources are down 32%, meaning they are short on officers. A lot of the First Nations have declared a state of emergency because of lack of a police presence. And one of them, as an example, and everyone knows in north of us in Long Lac, that First Nation there, one where there was the murder of that individual. They said this, that while they were still searching for that individual, some of the residents there knew where those individuals were hiding. They were still going in the house and buying drugs off them while they were being looked for. So anyway, she said drugs and suicides are a big problem on First Nations. Next up was Brad Deuce. He's with Anishinaabeg Police Service. He gave an update on their force, 305 officers, 66 civilians. Last year, they had 40,000 calls for service. So, do the math. That's quite a few calls. Next up was David Sabatini. He's the Ontario Provincial Police Association president. He talked about Bill C-14 and the importance of bail reform. The RCMP, they also have an issue with recruitment and retention pressures, also with mental health and wellness program. WSIB appeals, broader labor and quality of life issues, relationship with employers, culture, inclusion, and workplace respect, contract negotiations, fair and competitive. Next up was Rob Lawson. He was with the RCMP out of Manitoba. He talked about crisis leadership. He was the officer in charge of the Carberry bus crash. I don't know if everyone remembers, that was one of the 16 seniors from, I think from Dauphin. They're going to Carberry to a casino. They got hit by a transport, and 16 of them passed away. Anyways, it was they found the bus driver to be at fault. They didn't lay charges because I think he said, Bill, there's no chance of him coming out of a coma or whatever. So before they did that, we talked to all the families to make sure they were okay with it, and they were all okay. And, he was the officer in charge when this happened. it took a while for him to be notified of it. So, he talked about using fast facts for major incidents, like, a quick email, like whatever, but, motor vehicle collision, fatalities, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and not wait 2 hours and wait to read it on Facebook, you know, so he talked about the importance of, communication and above all, be honest in your comments, because if you're not honest in your comments, you're gonna get caught in a lie, so. Anyway, so next up was Tracy Smith. She's the Thunder Bay Police Service Director of Corporate Communications. I didn't take too many notes on her. Bill, I don't know if you have anything to say about her. Next up, Jim Mirza, Manitoba Association of Chiefs of Police, talked about policing Manitoba, also staffing shortages. Manitoba and Winnipeg also receives 1,200 calls per day for their officers, so they're quite busy too. Like other communities, there's mental health crisis in Manitoba. Officers aren't mental health trained workers. A lot of the calls police get are mental health calls, and they aren't trained for that. And he also spoke on officer wellness, as all police forces do. Next up was Sheriff from Minnesota, Patrick Eliasson. It's an elected position. I think it's every 4 years. They have an election. He's in the county, Cook County, which is just across the border, Grand Marais, Lutzen, stuff like that. He says he has 2 deputies for 120,000 people, 10 deputies on his force, and right now he only has 7. The other 3 are off sick or whatever. I'm not sure what else. And he spoke on what it takes to become deputy in Minnesota. And all states are different on how they recruit these officers. Next up was a pardon project by OPP Sergeant Carl Durrell, and it was in response to the Ayabuco report. This project was launched in North Caribou Lake. It's indigenous people are often overrepresented in the criminal justice system. And so it's the OPP's commitment to reconciliation with indigenous people. Payroll Board of Canada provided training and support, and the OPP waived some of their fees. And it was implemented because of lack of workers. And what it is say they need a guards in their jail. They can't get any guards at North Caribou Lake, and they go and see the Pan Council, and they got whatever. There's all kinds of people there, but so and so said, well, I got charged with impaired 20 years ago. That's still on his record, anyways. They work through the, I guess, the minor charges, I guess, to get pardons, and basically it doesn't cost these people anything, and they put them back in the workforce. And I'm not sure why he brought this up, but here's the other one about a traffic accident in southern Ontario, where the grandfather and his 3 grandkids were killed when they were hit by a impaired driver at K-Bill. Can't remember if he said that or not, but anyways, they were killed. And anyways, this guy pleaded, he got went to jail for I'm not sure what he is, for impaired driving, causing death or whatever. But anyways, to make a long story short, he said the guy was issued 10 speeding tickets, and I'm not sure the time frame on that, and 8 of them were reduced. So basically, what he's saying is, if none of those tickets were reduced, the guy probably wouldn't have had a driver's license. And the next one was Inspector Generou and Sergeant Mills from the OPP, and they're part of the occupational medicine and reintegration program, and there's lots of officers off sick for PTSD and stuff like that. And he was talking about a healthy workplace for the OPP. They have a third-party physician that looks at the officers and collects info from the treating physician. So you go to your physician, and your physician sends this information to the third-party physician, and he decides whether, yeah, you're okay to go back to work, or modify duty, or short or long-term reintegration. Not so you're going to your doctor and he says, yeah, get back to work, because you don't feel like it. So it's like a neutral party, I guess. So anyways, it was interesting, so. Any questions?
Well, would you be able to email that sometime, Paul?
Yeah, I can do that. Item is Danny, budget schedule.
Thank you, Worship. As part of the budget process, an administrative budget plan is presented to council. This provides timelines to which administration will adhere to throughout the course of the budget preparation. While the plan may deviate due to unforeseen circumstances, administration and council shall strive to meet these goals. Some highlights this year included, we are going to move the budget survey to a late November, end of December timeframe. This will allow the data to be presented closer to council budget meetings. Other changes, we're going to present a very high-level draft budget with the proposed levy increase. This will precede the budget meetings to get an idea of where administration has the budget before council debates the items. Finally, administration is proposing looking at operating and capital budgets on the same day. As per direction from the 2025 meetings, we will try to go through the entire budget in the one day with the following day set aside in case of any rollover requirements. This will leave the final budget to be passed on Monday, March 2nd. So the options are A, to approve the budget plan as presented, B, to approve the budget plan with required changes, or C, do not approve the budget plan and direct administration otherwise. Recommendation is option A.
Any questions?
No, appreciate the schedule.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, we have a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, second by Councilor Duno, resolve that the council approve the 2026 budget plan as presented. All in favor? Carried. Next item, Katie, the arena funding direction.
Councilor Swolchuk. Originally, I was actually going to be coming tonight with a recommendation until we've had numerous discussions about the arena. And I decided that maybe we should just come forward with some information only for tonight, just to give a little bit of time before the December 1st council meeting to think about it. So council is encouraged to consider the future of the arena, consult our recreation plan, and is welcome to bring forward any questions they have. So just to give a background, right now we have 3 open funding files with NOHSC. So we have one successful file, which is number 1. That was the foundation repairs, waterproofing, restore non-serviceable brine lines, replace ammonia piping, the ice plant, and purchase a battery-powered ice resurfacer. So we do have a new Zamboni essentially on its way from Italy. So that will be closed, that first funding agreement. So that's been successful. The second one was the Arena and Curling Club essential upgrades, which is some dehumidifiers for both the arena and the curling club. I'll talk a little bit about why the arena needs dehumidifiers. That one also includes some LED lighting. That funding proposal is approximately $375,000, covered at 75%. So the current status is that it's in stage 2, so that one would be ready to go, but it's on hold at the moment when we make this decision. The third one is the arena brine floor piping replacement. So that would be replacing the whole arena floor. So that one is remove and replace dashboards, remove existing floor and brine distribution piping, install new brine header lines and insulation, and replace the concrete floor. So that one is approximately $2.5 million, covered at 50%. And that one is in stage 1. So the problem being is that NOHSC does not like us to have more than one file open at the same time in the same building. So they came forward to us and said that they'd like us to look at closing one or the other and making some sort of decision. You know, we sort of got to this place where we thought we had a decision, and then we had more discussions between Danny, Rial, and I, and have come sort of full circle a few times. So the current discussion is basically that we have to look at closing one of those files, and we have to decide what project is more imperative and or feasible for the township, given different factors that we're facing. So I'll give you a little bit of a history. So prior to the regular season at the arena, it was discovered that the arena floor was leaking. That was not an easy fix to find the leak, and the cost uncovered by any grant was approximately $22,500. So that was to find and repair that brine piping. So the brine pipes are actually set in concrete, so it makes it really difficult to find out where the leaks are. So that arena was built in the 1950s and is original in almost all aspects, with the exception of the roof, which is approximately 15 years old. So it's expected that the floor of the arena will increase in liability over time and is currently 25 years past its lifespan. The pipes in the floor are remarkably in good shape, according to comments from the maintenance team. However, the brine pipe headers are in disrepair. So without a functioning brine system, brine floor piping, we don't have an arena. And currently, as it stands, the arena and the curling club are tied in together. So it is possible without some work that we would actually lose both and the curling club. So the other issue was, in addition to the brine pipes, the arena suffered extreme condensation this fall, which we asked all of you to go and take a look at. The water buildup dripped onto the ice, damaging and staining the ice surface. It was decided that the arena would have an early opening this year, and then the fall ended up being very warm. So that exacerbated these issues. And then the weather remained warm until October. In fact, it's still warm, although the roof is finally drying now. It wasn't until the end of the month that, the condensation began to clear. Maintenance staff felt this was the worst year yet for condensation. That's possibly due to the early opening, but I think it had more to do with the really unseasonable temperatures. Industrial fans were purchased to help address the condensation. However, dehumidifiers are essential to avoid this condensation in the future. The arena is still open early. So there's a couple of discussions about dehumidifiers versus heat pump systems that we'd like to talk about. Also, just, in terms of some of these particular funding lines, they're almost a year old now. So we probably want to revisit some of the costing on it as well. So we won't, obviously, another thing is we don't have to open the arena early, so we don't have to look at condensation all the time. We can consider that the floor might be more serious, and we have a later, season opening. So, one of the things that we should probably consider as well is that there is increased local global temperatures. So, warmer falls are probably a reality for us. And I should note that the staffing costs of opening the arena early and managing these variables was significant this year. So financial implications, any financial implications from the decision will be brought forward as part of the 2026 budget. These are some of the options that we've come up with, again, not to decide on tonight. So option one would be to move forward with the dehumidifier and lighting project. And that one again is $375,000, covered at 75%. In that case, we would close the arena flooring project and look at that at a later date. The second option would be to look at doing the flooring, replacing all the brine piping and doing that bigger $2.5 million project, cover that 50%. And we would close the dehumidifiers for now and again, look at that at another date. Another option is for us to close both projects and combine an arena project to cover those issues and possibly others. Certainly we want to look at maybe updating some of the costs and any other issues that we could look at repairing as well. And then number four would just be looking at considering alternatives for the arena altogether. So what we're asking is just that council, do a little bit of looking into this, and we on the meetings as administration have some more discussions about it, look at costs and decide what recommendation we want to bring forward.
We have a motion moved by Councillor Duno, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. We call the council accept this report as information only. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Stacy, food cycler.
Yes, good evening, Council. I've got two reports for you this evening. The first one is the Food Cycler Food Waste Reduction Challenge Round 2 continued. So a little bit of background information. So after their presentation to Council on February 18th, 2025, Food Cycle Science had drafted a proposal for a second pilot program for Terrace Bay, reintroducing the community to this improved compost alternative, with the goal of having 50 more homes in Terrace Bay utilizing the food cycler in the next year compared to the first pilot program of 36 units. So residents who purchased the unit were required to track weekly usage for the food cycler during each week for 12 weeks. Sample tracking sheets were included with the resident guide to each buyer. And at the end of the 12 weeks, residents report the usage to food cycler and answer a number of survey questions. So this pilot program has several benefits for Terrace Bay, such as an opportunity to trial home-based food waste diversion solution at a cost well below market prices, reduce food waste going to the landfill, which supports local climate change goals, an opportunity to bring new technology to residents at an affordable price, and an opportunity to obtain data that could be used to develop future organic waste diversion program. So our current discussion tonight is following council's approval for the second food cycle pilot program. The township proceeded with the purchase of 50 units. So 25 Eagle 3s and 25 Eagle 5s. The total invoiced amount for the program was $19,000 plus applicable taxes, which included both the units and the shipping costs. And I've got a couple tables here for you. So the original estimated net municipal cost, assuming all 50 units were sold at the subsidized residential rate, was $6,600. The units were sold to residents at the subsidized rate of $200 for the Eco 3s and $300 for the Eco 5s, resulting in a current total resale recovery of $11,100. But as of year end, 6 of the food cycler units remain unsold. So administration is seeking council's direction regarding the disposition of these remaining units. 2 potential options are presented for consideration. So number 1 is return the food cyclers to food cycle silence. In order to do so, it is subject to a $25 restocking fee per unit and an estimated shipping costs from $300 to $400. So we would estimate a possible recovery of $850 if we were to go with that option. Option number 2 would be community allocation. So donate the remaining units to local schools, organizations, or not-for-profit groups, or use them for raffle prizes at our local community events to further promote the food waste reduction awareness. So some financial implications. So should the items be returned, the municipality would recover approximately $850. Alternatively, retaining the items would result in a net expenditure of $1,400. The community allocation approach provides the opportunity to donate the items to charity, which may yield social or community benefits that are not directly reflected in the financial ledger. So our options tonight are option A, that council authorizes administration to return the remaining 6 units to food cycle science, subject to the applicable restocking fees and shipping costs, and directs administration to recover the associated funds. B, that council authorizes administration to retain the remaining 6 food cycle units for donation to local schools, organizations, or not-for-profit groups, or for use in raffle prizes at community events in order to promote food waste reduction awareness. Or C, that council directs administration otherwise, providing alternative directions for the disposition of the remaining 6 units. So our recommendation tonight is option B, that council authorizes administration to retain the remaining 6 units for donation to local schools, organizations, not-for-profit groups, and raffles.
Any questions?
I just happen to know that the school was interested in the project, so if you should go with the recommended option.
To add to it, I did reach out to the schools ahead of time, and the high school showed interest. The French school, along with St. Martin's, showed interest, and then we have the letter from the Terrace Bay Public School. I reached out to the hospital as well, but they're actually going to be looking at getting a corporate sized unit, so a larger unit for further space. So we would have essentially, after everything, possibly 1 left. That's including if we were to wrap them up.
No other questions? We have motion by Councillor Gill, seconded by Councillor St. Louis, resolved that council authorizes administration to retain the remaining 6 food cycler units for donation to local schools, organizations, or not-for-profit groups, or for use as raffle prizes at community events in order to promote food waste reduction awareness. All in favor? Carried. The next item is bike repair stations.
So in recent years, through the Lake Superior North Shore project, Superior Country has spearheaded several product development and marketing initiatives focused on cycling tourism, with the township of Terrace Bay participating as a partner community. These initiatives have included a feasibility study and plan to expand the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail along the North Shore of Lake Superior, the development of several park and ride itineraries on the North Shore, and the completion of familiarization tours to promote these itineraries. The partnership brief presents an opportunity for further investment in cycling tourism in our region through the purchase and installation of freestanding bike repair stations within the community. Investing in this infrastructure contributes to the growth of cycle tourism in the region, while also providing community members with an asset that supports active, healthy lifestyle. So our current discussion is Superior Country is proposing a partnership whereby each community participating in the North Shore Tourism Project will have the opportunity to invest in a freestanding bike repair station to be installed. These stations serve as valuable assets for both residents and visiting cyclists touring the area. So the total cost of each station, including tax and shipping, is $5,445.67. Through the North Shore Tourism Project, Superior Country proposes to invest 50% towards each station, with the remaining 50% contributed by each participating municipality. Each municipality will be responsible for selecting an appropriate location and ensuring a proper cement pad exists or is constructed for installation. Minimum pad size of 18 by 18 will accommodate the repair station itself, while a recommendation pad of 96 by 96 would allow additional space for a bicycle. These options are illustrated in the attached document. So each station will also include a decal for displaying the logos of the participating communities and partners at no additional cost. So the document provides participating municipalities with 3 options. Option 1, purchase a bike repair station in 2025, paying for their share prior to December 30th, 2025. 2, commit to a purchase of a station in 2026 with Superior Country covering the full cost in 2025 and invoicing the municipality in 2026 for reimbursement. Or 3, opt out of the program. One participating community has opted out, providing the opportunity for Terrace Bay to acquire 2 bike stations through this partnership at the same 50% cost sharing arrangement. Administration is proposing that Terrace Bay commit to option 2, budgeting for the purchase in 2026 and partnering with the Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee to fund 50% of the township's share. This arrangement would effectively allow the township to obtain 2 repair stations for the cost of 1. Administration would recommend that one station be installed at Central Plaza and the second be installed at the Beach Pavilion. So as for financial implications, the total cost of each bike repair station, as mentioned, including tax and shipping, is $5,445.67. Through the North Shore Tourism Project, Superior Country will contribute 50% towards each station, with the remaining 50% being funded by the municipality. As one participating community has opted out, Terrace Bay has the opportunity to acquire 2 of the stations under this cost-sharing arrangement. Administration is recommending that the township budget for the purchase in 2026 and is proposing to partner with the Terrace Bay Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee to fund the other 50% of the township share. So the following table proposes the cost share breakdown pending confirmation of the MAC committee funding. So confirmation of the MAC committee contribution will be sought at their next committee meeting when they finalize their 2026 budget allocations. Should the proposal be approved, the township portion will be included in the 2026 municipal budget using the township's municipal accommodation tax funds. Installation of the stations can be completed by public works staff. So we have a few options ahead this evening. Option A, that council supports option 2 of the North Shore Tourism Project partnership proposal and authorizes administration to commit to the purchases of 2 bike repair stations in 2026 in partnership with the Superior Country and Terrace Bay's Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee, with 1 station being installed at Central Plaza and the second at the Beach Pavilion, with the township's portion to be included in the 2026 municipal budget. Or B, that council does not support participation in the North Shore Tourism Project for the installation of the bike repair stations at this time. Or C, that council directs administration otherwise providing alternative direction regarding the participation in the North Shore Tourism Project and the installation of bike repairs. So recommendation tonight is option A, that council supports option 2 of the North Shore Tourism Project partnership proposal.
Questions? Good. We have a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, seconded by Councilor Aduno. Resolved that council supports option 2 of the North Shore Tourism Project partnership proposal and authorizes the administration to commit to the purchase of 2 bike repair stations in 2026 in partnership with Superior Country and the Terrace Bay Municipal Accommodation Committee, with 1 station to be installed at Central Plaza and the second at the Beach Pavilion, with the township's portion to be included in the 2026 municipal budget. All in favor? Carried. Next item. A motion moved by Councillor St. Louis, second by Councillor Duno. Whereas Northern Ontario's economic and social well-being depends on safe, reliable east-west and north-south transportation corridors, particularly highways 11 and 17, which form the Trans-Canada highway system across the region. And whereas these highways carry significant volumes of commercial and passenger traffic, yet remain largely two-lane corridors that face frequent closures and safety risks due to weather congestion and collision exposure. And whereas the 4-lane of Highway 17 and modernization of Highway 11 remain long-standing goals in northern communities, and whereas the proven 2+1 highway design, alternating passing lanes separated by a continuous median barrier, has demonstrated safety outcomes comparable to full twinning at substantially lower cost, land, and environmental impact, and can be scaled or converted to 4 lanes as traffic volumes increase. And whereas the government of Ontario has announced initial 2+1 pilot projects in Northern Ontario, providing an important opportunity to test and expand this model across other sections of the Trans-Canada Highway network. And whereas modernizing highways 11 and 17 will improve safety, reduce closures, strengthen supply chain reliability for mining, forestry, agriculture, energy, and tourism, and enhance national resilience and emergency response capacity. And whereas the coordinated phase 2+1 build program prioritizing key northern sections with high freight volumes and safety concerns will deliver measurable benefits for communities, Indigenous partners, and the broader Canadian economy. Will therefore be it resolved that the Council formally supports the adoption and phased implementation of the 2+1 highway program on highways 11 and 17 as a nation-building initiative, and that the Government of Canada be urged to recognize this initiative as a project of national interest under the Building Canada Act, and to partner with Ontario to co-fund and accelerate planning, design, and construction, and that the Government of Ontario be encouraged to expand the current pilot to a full corridor-wide program, sequencing projects according to readiness, safety benefit, and economic importance, and that both levels of government ensure early, meaningful, and capacity-supported engagement with effective Indigenous nations, including opportunities for training, contracting, and active participation, and that the program incorporate consistent corridor-wide safety, features barrier-separated 2+1 cross-sections, controlled passing frequency, wildlife mitigation, resilience measures, closure reduction, climate adaptation, and clean growth practices, example EV charging readiness, recycled aggregates, and low carbon materials, and that copies of this resolution be forwarded to the Prime Minister of Canada, Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Transport Canada, the Minister of Infrastructure Canada, the Ontario Minister of Transportation, Northern MPs and MPPs, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, the Northern Ontario Municipal Association, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and neighbor municipalities for endorsement. Any questions?
Missed that, did you read it again?
All in favor? Carried. Next question period, gentlemen.
If there's any questions online, you can type them in the chat.
Mike?
Questions for me? First of all, I'd like to thank Councilor Duno for his presentation of experience. I've enjoyed the meeting on Tuesday. Very important. Thank you very much for making our presentation. With regard to the Northern Policy Institute package that we delivered tonight, can a hard copy of that package be made available to the library?
Sure.
Okay. And secondly, does the supportive housing committee still stand?
Yeah.
Okay, but they haven't seen it.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment. There's a fairly large segment of the senior population who do not want to go to long-term care. And as indicated on there, 96% of seniors don't want their long-term care. We have no other choices. It's there or the ground, so that, what is it called, the supportive housing, I can't stress enough, I can name you a whole bunch, we're ready for that. Thank you.
Any questions on
Second call. And third and final call online. Keep in mind, you can always email questions to staff or your counselor after the meeting as well. Don't send any questions online, your worship.
Next portion is in camera. We have a motion moved by Councillor Duvay, second by Councillor Dillon. Resolve that council move the next portion of this meeting in camera 8:15 to discuss minutes from the previous in-camera session held October 6th. And one matter concerning personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, regarding recognition of the citizens regarding the recent incident in the community. And one matter concerning a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding the previously sold vacant lot. And number 4, one matter concerning a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding an unsolicited offer on an unlisted vacant lot. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.